Adam?
Yeah.
Are you in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Don't open the fridge door.
Why not?
Just don't. I've had to put the intro in there because it's unstable.
Oh, rubbish. Oh, God! I'll do.
Hey up, and as promised it is.
Where's the music coming from?
Huh?
Where's the music coming
Well,
from?
it just appears whenever I think of it. I just have a soundtrack to my life. Anyway, do you want to tell the folks what this movie's actually about?
Yeah, this we're reviewing the 1980 film The Final Countdown, which is basically an aircraft carrier at sea goes back in time.
It does.
And random shit happens. In fact, nothing happens, to be quite honest. Just, yeah, it's very, well, the style is very similar to Toko Ri in the fact that it opens out with the helicopter picking up the main character, which is Warren Lasky, and he's basically a business defence analyst. He's, well, it's never really explained why he's there.
Right, so it's actually got quite a good cast with it because, of course, it's got Martin Sheen and Kirk Douglas involved in it, which, of course, you know, two theatre and movie greats, to be perfectly honest, and they do make quite a strong cast on this one.
Yeah. Kirk Douglas plays the captain of the ship, and the ship incidentally being the USS Nimitz, and I don't actually know the pennant number at this point.
That's right, I'll just put it here.
Yeah, it'd be CVN something. Anyway, and also we have Martin Sheen, who plays, as I've said, Warren Lasky, and he's just there as the main protagonist, as a kind of a nobody, basically.
It's sort of the everyman for the movie, isn't it? Which, you know, is useful because it gives the audience the same bewilderment factor because, of course, he looks completely bewildered as well.
And also you have, I think it's James Farentino, he plays Commander in the Air Group, and I really can't remember his name, he was that forgettable. Yes, he's commander of the Carrier Wing 8, and for some strange reason he's actually allowed on helicopter rescue missions. Twice in the film, we don't know why. It's one of these sort of Star Trek moments, as you've...
Yeah, as I said, yeah, it's sort of the Star Trek moment of, I'm the captain, therefore I must get involved with every mundane away mission and task. Why?
Exactly. Why? There's no point. It just is stupid.
I just have to say, I have a funny feeling that he was just put in there, one, as sort of an 80s eye candy, which, you know, he's not that great to look at as male actors go. Second of all, he was obviously just thrown in there just to give the more faceless crew a recognisable point for the audience to follow, which is a little bit poor, in my opinion, when you put it into a movie like that.
And also, Laurel Scott, the female lead, that was... her love interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an odd movie, to be perfectly honest.
Basically, it caters for people like me, which just want nothing more than to see jets flying about and shit blowing up, basically.
Which, of course, you know, 2 F-14 Tomcats against Zeros, which is...
It's overkill in the highest order, basically.
Well, yeah, how long does a dogfight need to last?
Well,
where they don't actually shoot?
Well, they don't actually shoot. 2-3 seconds, this thing they make it last for about 5 minutes. I mean, I really like the sequence because it's just cool. And I especially like the sequence where they shoot them down, although I still think the fact that an M61 Vulcan cannon can cause far more damage than this. It would break the wing off or tear the fuselage to shreds. Anyway.
But, you know, it's the 80s. Stuff has to explode and tumble in cool ways because that's what everyone's expecting.
Yes.
So... But, you know, that, of course, is part of the problem with this movie because it starts off as you sort of expect an 80s carrier movie thing to happen, and all of a sudden...
How's it gone?
Time travel!
Ah, what the hell?
So that was me. I just went 2 weeks into the future and then came back, and not a lot happens, to be perfectly honest. So anyway.
Yeah, move on. We'll move on.
We'll move on. Okay.
Weird. An example which occurs when the first time vortex storm thingy turns up. where Kirk Douglas orders the destroyers to turn round. Yeah, in real life you can't order an entire carrier battle group to turn round just for the sake of a weird, shiny, stormy thing.
Yeah. It just seems utterly ridiculous to me. In fact, just to give you an idea of how ridiculous it is, in a second there's going to be just a quick silent annotation that will tell you just how many ships are involved in a carrier battle group. It'll scroll through all of them. Did you see how long it was?
It was awesome. It was about
Ridiculous.
an hour long. Yeah, ridiculous.
So, yes, and then of course there is the nitpick number 2, which of course involves the Zero.
They are armed with 20mm wing cannons and I think it's 7.62mm.
7.62mm guns which are mounted near the engine.
Yeah, basically they're in front of the pilot, as in just in front of the pilot. But yes, they have 20mm wing cannons and they fire these in the movie and, well, one of the characters gets hit by them and nothing happens. Basically he just judders about and flails wildly and then just collapses.
In fact, here, this is the bit.
You'd have a hole in you the size of an 8-ball, or bigger than that. I mean, you know, it just makes no sense. So one thing I will mention is the fact that this is also slightly accurate, but I wouldn't know how time vortexes work. I like the fact that they make everything stop on the ship, all the radar, the telex printers, everything. It just stops. And also there is a scene where a chap mysteriously disappears. He's in there one scene cowering down with his hands over his ears. I mean, he just disappears. There's no idea where he's gone. And there's no explanation, so yeah, that's one of the many crew that's missing during the transition. Another problem I've got with this is the E-2 Hawkeye, which is it's a radar surveillance aircraft. For some reason it has to go within visual range of the Japanese fleet, and also the Japanese fleet quite obviously sees this aircraft, and the Japanese naval personnel are completely unfazed by the fact that there is an E-2 Hawkeye pretty much hovering at least 20,000 feet over them.
And, you just have to say, why? Why? Again, this is the thing that we found with this movie, that when you do realise a little bit about the equipment, I mean, I don't personally, but even I sort of thought, well, hang on a minute, I know that it's got a radar dish on the top. Why does it need to go that close?
It doesn't. It
doesn't
at
at all, does it? I mean, it just happens.
Yeah.
So one point that has to be quite good in this movie is the way in which they do act like they're completely unknown situation. One minute they're riding towards a storm, the next minute they're back in the calm blue Pacific Ocean. And so there's the way in which they haven't a clue what the heck's going on, and even as sort of the tiny little bits of evidence start to stack up throughout the movie before they reach the conclusion that yes, they are back in time, is actually really well done, and it's quite cleverly paced throughout the movie, considering that it is supposed to be at heart a bit of an action movie. The way in which they first come across the pristine Zeros and the pristine yacht, and then it goes on where they've taken aerial photographs of Pearl Harbor, and all of a sudden they realise that Battleship Row is exactly where it's supposed to be on December 6th, 1941. And that is actually pretty cleverly done.
This film has only one black guy in it, who's Commander Dan Thurman, the ship's XO. All he does in the film, as with most characters who are sort of secondary characters, is shout and basically do the American thing, which is blow everything up, which in this case it will get the job done. The film suffers from budget problems in the fact that it builds up to an absolutely awesome climax and then doesn't deliver.
I think that it's mostly because it's pretty obvious they blew pretty much their entire budget on renting a frigging nuclear-powered aircraft carrier off of the Navy.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot better movie if they had included, a bit of random time manipulation. They could have gone back to a completely different world. It would have been actually quite strange and interesting to see. But instead, it's just a case of, well, we've done the budget.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been really cool if if they'd have actually had the sequence where you see Tomcats, A6 intruders basically beating the shit out of the Japanese fleet.
So at the end of the movie there is of course the obligatory twist, because it involves
time travel!
And it's pretty predictable, to be perfectly honest. A couple of the protagonists, the main characters, were left in the past, and then suddenly
they appear as Mr. and Mrs. Tideman, and somehow the fact that the male lead. He was Lieutenant Commander Richard Owens, who's the commander of the air group, and then there's Laurel Scott, who was the female love interest. They changed their surnames and built this multi-billion-dollar corporation that builds aircraft carriers. And how a commander of the air group knows the inner workings of an aircraft carrier beggars belief. Again.
So as it is, we're going to now obviously give it our scores. For me personally, I'm going to give it a 2.5. There's sort of those daft little illogical bits that sort of ruin the pacing a bit, and it builds itself up to obviously what is going to be quite a cool ending, and then suddenly changes its mind, probably because they blew the budget, as I'll point out again, on an aircraft carrier.
I'm gonna give it 3 stars because I can actually overlook most of the fact that it's, well, apart from the fact that you've got jets, and you've got more jets. That's what I want in a movie.
Pretty cool.
Yes, it is pretty cool. And I'll give it 3 stars because I'm able to overlook the fact that it's got some huge plot holes and hideous acting in some cases. So that's it. That's another AnJ review in the bag. We don't quite know what film we're going to review next. We're still deciding at this point. But just as a note, all the clips that you've seen in this review, we actually do own the whole sort of movie that we're using. In fact, I own the movie.
And what we're actually going to do, we are encouraging you to actually go out, find these movies. Some of them are actually quite cheap these days because we are generally reviewing classical films. But, you know, there's still a bit of money going towards the actors, towards the people who originally made it. So do go out and actually buy it, even if it's only from the bargain bin. Because, you know, it's always good to get a decent quality movie. And we're hoping we're going to at least bring you some idea of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be it. So we'll see you again next week.
Yep.
See ya!
Bye!